Hey everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the Layoff Bounce Back Challenge. I hope you found value in the insights and exercises that we shared with you yesterday. But if you have any questions on anything that we've covered so far, be sure to let us know in the comments. We're going to get started in a few minutes, but before I do, I need to give you another disclaimer. Unfortunately, I'm still without internet access here in my house in New York. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the technician guaranteed me that I'll be back on the grid by this afternoon, which means Stacia and I will definitely be able to go live tomorrow and the rest of this week. But that doesn't really do us any good this morning. So to keep this 5-day challenge moving forward, I'm going to switch over to another rehearsal video that Stacia and I recorded last week. We did this when we were testing out our live stream settings to make sure everything worked. Now, the pre-recorded video I'm going to show you, it covers all the main topics we planned on sharing with you today. And Stacia and I are both watching the live stream with you live right now, too. So we're going to be ready to answer all of your questions in real time throughout the live stream. And one last note, tomorrow we will definitely be going live 100%, no asterisks or anything behind that. We're going to be going live no matter what. And I can guarantee it for one main reason, because Stacia and I don't have any more pre-recorded rehearsal videos to show you, which means tomorrow I'll either be live streaming from my house if I have the internet back, or you'll see me at Starbucks. Either way, we'll be 100% live. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to the pre-recorded video. If you just got laid off, now is the perfect time for you to take a step back and get crystal clear on exactly what you want in your next job. Now, be careful not to waste this opportunity, because if you're unclear on this, it's virtually impossible to get to where you want to be. But if you're struggling to figure it out, don't worry, because we're going to give you a few exercises to help you. Before we get too far, let's start off with some quick introductions. But I've done a lot of talking already, so I'm going to catch my breath and let Stacia go first.
Hey, Doug, thanks so much for that. So hi, everyone. My name is Stacia Gaskin. I am a career coach. I'm an HR manager turned career coach. I have over 15 years, 10 to 15 years in the HR space, working in various roles. Most recently was definitely that of a manager. I have worked with hiring managers, and like I just said, I've been one myself. So I bring a wealth of experience to my clients as we kind of guide them to their next steps, which I think fits perfectly with what we're talking about today. So Doug, did you want to give an introduction for yourself?
Nah, go to my
No?
LinkedIn
Okay,
profile.
well then never mind.
I'm kidding. Hey everyone, I'm Doug Howard, and I'm an engineering manager, mentor, and career coach. And in my previous life as an engineering manager, I actually took a 5-person team and I built it into a 40-person engineering department. And
Wow.
in the process, I discovered my true passion for helping engineers build all the foundational non-engineering skills that you need to put your career on an accelerated path. But after working as a manager for so long, I realized that that's where my true passion lied, and I wanted to make a bigger impact. So I ditched the corporate world to focus more on providing engineers like you with the mentorship you deserve. And between Stacia and I, you're going to gain an inside look at everything that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to the hiring process at most companies. And with so many engineers getting laid off over the last few weeks by big tech, Stacia and I wanted to help. So we pulled together our resources and we put together this 5-day challenge focused on helping you get back on your feet if you were laid off. But quick disclaimer, we're new at this whole like LinkedIn Live thing. We did it yesterday and it seemed to go well, but we're still like working out the kinks. So, let us know that this is working right. Let us know that you can actually hear us and see us. Let us know by liking it or sending something in the comments. Just say something like, it's working fine, or something like that. Jokes are accepted. So anyway, we just want to make sure that you're actually seeing this. We don't want to be, talking to just our computer screens. So anyway, moving on. If you're joining us for the first time today, let me just quickly explain what this 5-day challenge is. So throughout this week, we'll be going live on LinkedIn every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And each day we're going to focus around a specific topic. Yesterday, we covered, how to shake off those negative vibes and, how to rebuild your confidence after getting laid off. So if you missed it, you can go back and watch it by clicking on the link in the comments that I put down there in the comments a few minutes ago. Then over the rest of this week, we'll be covering topics like building the perfect resume, boosting your LinkedIn profile, and crushing your next interview. We're also going to give you some powerful tools, techniques, and insights in each of these areas, along with specific exercises designed to help you put everything we cover and everything you learn into action right away. But if you want to gain the full value from all this, then you're going to want to download our free workbook because we're going to be referencing it throughout the week and throughout today's video. So if you didn't do it already, take a moment to download it. Just click on the link that I posted in the comments a few minutes ago. I'll give you a second. Okay, we're going to cover a lot of ground this week. So if you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments. This is probably the last time I'll mention comments for a while, but be sure to let us know in the comments if you have any questions, and we'll make sure that we answer each one, okay? All right, today we're going to focus on helping you get crystal clear on what you want in your next job. And later this week, we're going to show you how to get out there and go find that job. But first, let's start with the biggest reason why so many engineers struggle with finding the perfect job. You know, it's actually pretty simple. And it's because figuring this stuff out on your own isn't easy, you know? Engineering is a very exhausting and stressful job with a high percentage of burnout. So by the time you get home from work, you probably don't feel like thinking about work at all. You know, you probably don't have the time or energy or space to begin even thinking about things like, you know, where do you want your career to go? But, you know, if you're struggling to figure out what you want in your next job, then there's actually a good chance that you're not clear on your why, you know, WHY, why. You know, you see, as engineers, we get caught up on, you know, a little too much in focusing on what we're doing, and we forget to consider why we're doing it. You know, and this is a problem because everything you do in life is driven by a why. You know, why do you work? Because you need a paycheck. You know, why do you need a paycheck? To pay the bills, and so on. You know, these whys are pretty black and white. You know, but meanwhile, figuring out the why for your career is a little bit more complex. You know, it's not so obvious. But figuring out your career path and your next steps has to start with defining your personal why, because your why is the motivation behind all your behavior and, more importantly, your decisions. You know, so if you're struggling with decision making, you know, maybe you're not clear on your why. You know, and you know, just think of it this way. You know, if you don't know why you're doing something, you know, then it's virtually impossible to figure out where you want to go or how to get there, or to even have the motivation to want to do it. You know, before I beat that thing to death, you know, I'll just maybe hand it over to Stacia. You know, Stacia, would you mind sharing a few more insights on this?
Absolutely. Having your why, that just piggybacking off of that, that is super, super important. What motivates you to do things. And I think one of the things that I'd like to say is that perspective is reality. And what
Mm,
I would challenge our audience today to kind of do, even though yesterday, you know, we talked about like how it might feel and it might be a negative space. What I would say is, why don't we flip the narrative on this and think of this time as a gift?
mm,
Because you have been gifted with the opportunity to take a moment and actually make some decisions for yourself based on your why. So yeah, all of, you know, most of us who
Stacia, could you say that again? I think your camera froze. Could you just
oh, sure.
you said before you said take a moment?
Oh, I don't even know where that is, but take a moment to kind of to take this time as a gift, because you
Yes.
just never that part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That I think that we should flip the narrative on the fact that, you know, like woe is me, the woe is me like perspective, and think of most of us don't get an opportunity in our adult life to actually take a break and to reassess and to pivot. And this could be looked at as this time right now, where this is a time where you can actually look at what you did in your last role. See what you liked, what you were really good at. There are really great, and Doug, you and I didn't really touch on this, but I know that we're firm believers of like assessments that kind of help you.
Hmm.
But one of the ones that I really like, and I don't know if I've told you this before, Doug, but there's the strength finder test where you actually just think of like you actually, and I don't think you need the test to know like where you draw your energy from. If you take just an internal assessment, or you write it down and you say, okay, you know what I really liked in my last job? I like working with people. I like helping people. I like guiding people. I like, like what have you. Then you start to kind of see what energizes you, and maybe that provides clarity on the path forward. Another thing that you want to kind of keep in mind as you are on this path right now, to make sure that you get focused and you treat this time, and you don't waste this time, is I think sometimes, like right now, like I'm talking about like the great stuff, but sometimes the why could be I need a job because I have these bills to pay. And that's an urgent
Hmm.
why, right? So then how you go for it might look different than somebody who can like kind of break a little bit more. But for somebody who
Hmm.
maybe has been at a job for a few years and maybe they haven't seen the career progression that they want to see, then their why could be, how can I not only take this time but propel myself to the next level, right? Like take my skills and propel myself to the next level. So I think that one of the things that, or one of the exercises that we have today, really just kind of have you do self reflection. Because just as Doug said, like if you're not clear on your why, you might not be clear on your direction. And if you're not clear with your direction, you really might just start applying for the sake of applying. And the problem with that is that you might end up in the same, if you didn't like your old role, you might end up doing the same thing that you did before that didn't bring you joy. And while money is great, someone once told me that money is like a motivational speech. It only, the effects of it only last but so long. And I was like, oh, like money is great, but it can't be your it can't be your key driver, because it's not going to be sustainable if you don't feel valued, if you don't feel like the people that you work with like you, or value you. I think value is a better word. Value you, value your time away from your family. You might start to feel resentful. So you just have to get clear on, if you like seeing your children at their basketball game, then a role where you have work-life balance is important. So I don't know, Doug, if this is too early to kind of introduce a few of the questions that we have for the challenge, but maybe I'd like
Um,
your input to
m-
see if you want to add a little bit
yeah.
more.
No, I had a story come to mind.
Okay.
This person wasn't laid off in this story I'm going to tell. It was a direct report of mine when
Hmm.
back at the company I used to work for when I was an engineering manager. And
Yeah.
I'll be a little general and high level here because I didn't talk with this person before going live today,
Fair.
and I didn't ask for his permission to share this, so I'll be a little vague with the specifics. But
Okay.
the general idea was, this is an engineer that worked for me. I hired him right out of college, and he worked under me for worked at our company for a year. So 1 year
Hmm.
professional experience, all with our company. And he popped in my office one day. He was doing really well. He liked the job. He was a good fit. He was getting along on the team. So he was a rising star. Is what I called them at the time. These people that were kind of like on the rise, and you saw tons of potential in them very early. And
Yeah.
he surprised me one day by coming into my office and basically giving me his 2 weeks notice. Like, I didn't see any signs of this at all coming. This is something I took personally as a manager. Not like I got angry or anything, but I'm just like, what did I do wrong? Like,
No, no, no.
how
It's
could I
like
not see this?
yeah. No, I get that.
So so anyway, but and I didn't want him to leave either. I really liked him a lot, and I felt like he was on a good path with us, and I felt like I could help him grow a lot too. And so, I was really, disappointed, not with him, but just with the situation. I didn't want him to go, but
Outcome.
as his manager, I didn't want to abuse the power of my role by like aggressively convincing him to stay or anything like that. So I was very careful with how I handled this. And I didn't tell him what to do, and I could tell he was, he didn't come into me with like a snarky attitude when he did this. He was very, I could tell he was not looking forward to having this conversation with me. Um,
Hmm.
so anyway, when I asked him, yeah, when he told me, the first thing I said was, "Oh wow, do you have another job opportunity? That's exciting." So I didn't get mad. I didn't get defensive. I just said, that's
Okay.
awesome. Good for you. You're
Mhm.
only been here a year. And so he told me about the job opportunity. And, at this time, our company was still pretty small and scrappy. The whole time I worked there over 15 years, we evolved from like a 5-person small team, family owned business, mom and pop type company. And by the time I left, we were over 40 people in the department, and we're
Wow.
internationally, an international huge corporation working on projects throughout the world. So it's like night and day, like two different companies. But
Great.
this story was back when we were still small, like that family atmosphere and whatnot. And so the reason I'm sharing all that detail is because, you know, the engineers I hired got to work on bigger projects than you typically do at a big company. We only had 5 or 6 engineers. So, you know, if we're short staffed with our senior engineers at the time, the rookie got pulled up and got to work on some exciting stuff, which isn't very common for most engineers. Most of the time, when you're a junior, or when you're your first few years on, you're stuck doing all the crap work that the other people don't want to do, or you're
Mhm.
playing like a bit role in a project. So if you're a structural engineer, you're not designing the bridge. You're designing like one beam or one connection or one QC check on the bridge, and someone else is doing all the other stuff. So
Right.
anyway, where I'm going with this is, he was getting exposed to a lot of, because we were growing so fast and we were understaffed. We were understaffed the whole time I was there. We were always hiring, and he got pulled into a lot of exciting projects. He got to go on site with some pretty high end customers. I mean, our customers were some of the biggest companies in the world, so we got access to see some pretty cool stuff when we were developing projects. Structural engineering is what we did. And anyway, long story made short, you know, um, he's young, he's out of college. I figured that's probably, he didn't have a family, he's not married yet. I don't believe, he had any student loans or anything like that, just a single 24-year-old dude. So,
Right.
I figured money isn't probably that important to him, as opposed to like growth opportunities and being exposed to more things at this early stage. But I didn't tell him that. I didn't want to lead him or anything. I just said, I'm just curious. Everything seemed to be going great here. I'm just curious why you took that opportunity. So he told me about the job and what he'll be doing. And, what he was doing with us was structural engineering on projects. He was doing real structural engineering, even though he wasn't a licensed engineer yet. All of his work was going to get over reviewed, but he was getting to do the same level of work as a PE, which is like way ahead of schedule for, someone who, if you're not familiar with structural engineering, you don't get to touch this type of stuff until later in your career, at
Wow.
most of the time.
Mhm.
So I asked him what this new role was, and then he told me it was estimation, estimating. So doing like quantity takeoffs and whatnot for estimating and bidding structural projects. Totally different. I'm thinking about it. I asked him like, well, how much engineering are you going to do? Well, a little bit. I need to know, background in engineering, but I'm not going to be doing any analysis and this and that, the other. So then I asked, is this a path that you're more interested in? That, and well, not really. I mean, I'm open to it. I want to try new things, but I'm not like trying to be on a path where I'm going to be a senior estimator or anything like that.
Okay.
And then I just asked, like, how do you see yourself, continuing your engineering skills? In that, if you're not going to be doing that much engineering and you just need like a background baseline type skill level, how are you going to take your skills further? It's going to be hard. You have to like do it outside of work. You have to like learn stuff on your own. Who's going to do that? And
Right.
so, so I was not telling him what to do. I was just asking him these questions. And then I asked him, so I'm just curious, how come you're taking, this job? And then he told me, it pays more, that was it. He told me, it's, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a decent bump. And we were a small company,
Mhm.
so like we couldn't match what bigger companies were paying at the time. We were a small private firm. So yeah,
Right.
it was, somewhere like 10 to 20% higher salary. Um, and definitely not like an elevated role. It was at, at best a lateral move, probably more like a
Mhm.
step laterally backwards for a structural engineer's path, I'll say.
Okay.
So so money was the only reason, I guess, is why I'm sharing all this. And then he asked me after we were talking about this, he's like, well, what do you think I should do? So there's my opening to tell him stay, but I couldn't. I just was like, I don't want to. This is his life. He needs to make this decision for himself.
Mhm.
And I told him, I think what you should do is figure out what's most important to you right now at this point in your career. Not tomorrow, not 20 years from now. I would take some time with myself if I was you over the weekend and just think about what's most important. Is it compensation? Is it opportunity? Is it company culture? And I listed a whole bunch of things. I would think about these things and figure out what's the top, two or three most important things to you, and then rank them.
Yeah.
Because that's how you should make that decision. You know, and he came back to me on Monday, so I gave him space. This was like a Friday afternoon, and he told me he was supposed to give that company an answer by Monday as well. Like he didn't accept the offer yet when he told me.
Good for
And
him. Okay.
so then, sorry, I'll wrap this up. I know I'm taking up a lot of time here, but
Mhm.
I think it's a good story to share. Um,
Yeah.
so he came into my office first thing Monday morning, and he showed me like the offer letter that he got from that company. And right in front of me, he ripped it up and then put it in my trash in my office. Uh, and then he says, and then he shook my hand. And he just said, he said something like, just wanted you to know that, there was no doubt in my decision, growth and the opportunities that I have here, that's more important to me than money right now in my career. And I'll say, you might be watching this and hearing me say this right now and be skeptical, thinking like, okay, well, good for him. Uh, he probably got screwed because he made less money. Well, since that, he's still with the company that I worked for, and he's now the engineering manager. He ended up replacing my role. So I guess I kind of like sold his hand there, but it's a good story. There's nothing bad with it. Um, so my point is like, he growth and advancement was really important for him,
Mhm.
and that decision paid off. He stayed at a company that gave him those opportunities, and he became a manager very early in his career, and I'm really proud of him too. Um, but I just think this story might help some engineers out there. What you might feel that panic, like I got to get a job right now. I got to get any job. But first off, right now, this time, right now, this minute, like in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I don't want to scare you, but not that many companies are going to be hiring right now. The budgets are locked and closed. They're not looking to increase their budget for the year. They're trying to meet that bottom line for the year and look good for Q4. So that'll change come January 1st. But the
Mhm.
reason I'm saying this is, you have this time and space. You're most likely not going to find the perfect job this minute, just being realistic. And Stacia, I don't know if you disagree with that about this timing.
Well, I think that what you're saying is I think every company handles how they do their hiring differently. To your point, I do think that this time is it can be a fast time in talent acquisition. I know I'm a little off message on that one, but
That's
one
okay.
of the things that
Full
people
end of the spectrum here between the two of us.
yeah, so I'm not familiar with the engineering space, but I will say that companies are trying to use up their budget as well, so they're trying to get as many things handled as possible. That doesn't gonna open a lot of jobs or things of that nature, but they might be a push to hire because you never know what's gonna happen with the budget. Um, One thing that I will say, and I don't want to be remiss in saying this, back to the why, right? Because I think we both, like I said, my little motivational money is like motivational, like a motivational speech. It won't keep you for long, but I don't want to be remiss that your why actually could be money, right? Like it could be
Yeah,
money. Doug, you and I've spoken
totally
about
fair.
this before. If Matt, I've talked to Doug about I'm like a communication geek, and so there's Maslow triangle of our hierarchy of needs or what have you, and everyone's basic needs need to get met. And so like I don't want you
Hmm.
to feel like um that I'm not acknowledging that. So if you need to if you may not have the luxury of time to just
Hmm.
say yes, I want all of these perfect things. It might be I need to get this job now because I'm here with I have these responsibilities that have to get taken care of. Maybe you because this was so unexpected, you might be propelling forward. But for those who can take the time, right? Who can take the time, I highly recommend it because as I said and what Doug said, it can just be it can be a gift. It can be a gift of getting that clarity. And we have some exercises, Doug, that I think would
Yeah,
be
yeah, good,
really
good
good,
point.
like talking about them. There are about 4 questions that I actually have notes, so I'm gonna like kind of read those, but they're like 4 questions that I think really help to give you some clarity. The first one is, like I mentioned earlier, what did you enjoy about your last role? Right? Everybody has something they don't like, but there are some things that you liked. And I really think that you should take inventory about what you liked in your last role. You want to talk about a little bit what aspects of it you would like to do again. And if you had a chance to do it again, what would you avoid? Right? Like, so if you really like being a people manager because you like the coaching piece of it, but you really disliked, I don't know, the budget piece of it. Maybe there's a role that allows you to do the coaching piece, but maybe not be responsible for the budgeting piece.
Like
Or
a project
um,
leader or something like
for the
that.
I was going to ask you if you could break it, like I'll give an example engineering wise, right? Exactly, the project piece. Or what have you always wanted to do that you maybe have not been able to do? Because one thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about is, we have these titles: HR manager, engineer. It's interesting. There are some titles where there are hard skills uh, and things that you have to bring into the role. But there's so many roles that you may have the base level, and then you have all of these transferable skills that you might not be thinking about. So you want to kind of think about it in that way. And then, what are some dream companies, right? That you would love to work for, that you've kind of been eyeing, that you've maybe been following. Um, it's kind of a time to assess and see what they're doing, what's happening, find out like what their hiring looks like. Um, and we have a workbook. It's in our workbook, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. But those are pretty much like the 4 questions that I think you want to ask yourself during this time. And Doug,
Yeah.
did you add something to that? I know you have some
Yeah.
thoughts.
I mean, were you finished with exercise one?
I am. Yes, I'm finished with
Oh,
exercise.
okay. Yeah. Thanks for going through that. And I'll just say, like, yeah, just to clarify, first, Stacia, thank you for giving your perspective on what I said about companies not hiring now. That's just what I know from my experience. But I was in a very specific sector and whatnot, and so I don't know what I don't know, I guess is my point on that. Thank you for sharing that. That's the whole idea of both of us being on here. Getting a 360-degree view instead of just mine or just Stacia's. Um, and then second, I just want to clarify too for what I said. I told that story about the engineer and money not being the most important thing, but yeah, money could be the most important thing to you, and I agree. So like, this isn't like about being noble or anything like that. It's about what's most important to you. I'm
Right.
not here to like say kumbaya or anything. But figuring out what's most important to you. And if it's money, it's money. If it's I want credit, I just want to be acknowledged. Okay,
Mm,
it doesn't matter. But you got to figure out what's most important to you. Is what my point is. So and I get it. Like what Stacia said, you might not have the time and to take. You might need to get your next paycheck right now. So I don't want to dismiss that or gloss over that point. And I'm sorry if I did, guys. Everyone who's watching. Um, but I'll continue to the second exercise, okay? And kind of just continuing
okay.
this idea of like getting clear on what's most important to you. Um, first, you're going to want to do the exercise that Stacia just talked about first before this next one, because her exercise gets you in the right frame of mind for this next one. You don't want to do this like when you're in a bad mood. This next exercise. Um, this next exercise, I call it a core values assessment. And it's designed to help you figure out exactly what matters the most to you right now in your career.
Mm,
And how it works is really simple. First, you read through the journal entries from the first exercise that you did that Stacia just explained. Read through them after you've, take a step away after you're done, and then read through it, kind of like with a clean slate, an objective view on it. Then look for any patterns throughout your answers. And to be more specific on this, search for any core value words or ideas that jump out at you. Things like stability, job security, freedom, financial health,
mm,
personal growth, advancement opportunities, things like that. Are you seeing any trends in your answers to the questions that you're answering in Stacia's exercise. Whatever trends you notice, write down each of these core value words or ideas that jump out at you. Write them down in a list, okay, like a vertical list. And after you do this, then take a moment to think about if there are any more personal core value words that are missing, that weren't captured in your answers. And if you think of any, add them to the list. Again, keep it vertical. Now, this list doesn't have to be in any particular order, but after you create the list, then I want you to assign a number to each word in the list. So the top item in your list will be 1, the second item, the item below will be 2, and so on. And this isn't like your priority ranking, this is just a key. And you're going to use these numbers as a key and then create a decision matrix table to cross compare each value to every other value. So just to walk you through this example real quick, if your list was number 1, personal growth, number 2, family, number 3, financial health, and so on, you would start by choosing what's most important to you between 1, personal growth, and 2, family. So if family is more important, then you would circle number 2 in the decision matrix table. And there's a decision matrix table in the workbook if you're wondering what that means. Then next, then you would choose what's most important to you between the number 2, family, and number 3, financial health. So if financial health is again more important, then you would circle, or if it's more important this time, then you would circle number 3 in the table. And what you do is you keep doing this, you keep cross comparing every value against each other until you've compared each core value in your list against every other one. And then when you're done, you go back and count the number of times each number was circled, okay? The value with the highest number of circles is your top priority. And the value with the next highest is your second highest priority, and so on. So now, like I was saying before, if this sounds complicated, don't worry. It's actually really simple because we simplified this exercise in the workbook with an easy fill in the blank list and table for you to use where you just circle in numbers, that's it. So as a quick reminder, this workbook is free. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, just click on the link that I posted in the comments right when this video started. And one more time, if you have any questions on these exercises or anything that we covered today, please let us know in the comments. We're going to break off in a minute to make sure that we have time to answer everyone's questions in the comments. But before we go, we want to thank you for joining us on day 2 of this 5-day challenge. Tomorrow, we're going to show you a few HR secrets from Stacia. These secrets are going to make sure that your resume gets the interview. So if you're still up for the challenge, join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, okay? Thanks for watching.